topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. I'm going to start off with saying California, along with other states that we target: New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, Oklahoma, Washington, and Idaho. We have got, for the next 50 minutes, such a great show for you. You asked for it, and we gave it to you. We realize we have a lot of homeowners, and I have to tell you that if you do not know what a public insurance adjuster is, you're going to learn about it today and how important and how much they can help you when you have a claim. And we found I'm telling you, one of the best companies out of California that this is all they do. Let me introduce you to our expert, who is becoming a great, great show by your letters, Robert Crown. Good afternoon, Robert.
Good afternoon, Stephen. How are you? Nice to
It's
see you.
always good to see you. And let's give a shout out to Joseph Fernandez, your partner. He could not be with us today, but we're running his name and his email underneath on our scroll.
Good.
So, Robert, first of all, tell us about Crown Adjusting.
We're a licensed public adjusting firm based in California. We actually service all of California, but most of our business currently is in Northern California. And we are licensed in Nevada and soon to be licensed in other states. But, we're a small boutique firm that provides hands-on assistance to consumers that are struggling with their own insurance companies and their own active insurance claims. Public adjusters are hired to basically quarterback the claim to make sure people present their claims properly, thoroughly, and they optimize the coverage to the best of their ability. Using us makes us their spokesperson, and we provide all the logistical and technical expertise to help them prove that their insurance company owes X amount of dollars. Initially, the insurance company comes out and they tell you what they're going to do. Most people don't really have the slightest idea how to present a claim. So we're a resource to people that need it.
Well, I've got to tell you that about 15 years ago, I had a complaint with my homeowner's insurance and my claim. And I got to tell you, I was about to sign off, even though I didn't agree with the amount. And someone said, "Why aren't you using a public adjuster?" And you know what? Like most people would go, "What is a public adjuster?" And they turned me on to a company. And I am going to just listen, every claim is different. I'm not saying this is what would happen to you. This is just what happened to me. But they offered me $27,000. The public adjuster got me over 100,000. Does that sound unreal to you, Robert?
It's ridiculous, but it's par for the course.
Yes, but we're not
are-
saying this is what Robert can do, but you know what? At least you level the playing field when you have a public adjuster.
That's correct.
So, and I just got a text from somebody, and I understand it because hurricane season is getting ready to start here in Florida. Someone just wrote me they have property in Florida and they want to know, are you licensed in Florida?
We are not, but we have relationships with very capable public adjusters in Florida as well as in other states. I just came back from Scottsdale, where our national association meets for both continuing education and to welcome in a new president. We're licensed in 47 states,
Wow.
and the level of credibility is very high. So I'm in good company with many of the people that preceded me in the business, who are active in the business and want to see new and talented people enter the business. So
Well, I understand this text because again, Florida, oh my God, they're saying we're going to get blasted this year with hurricanes. So I can understand somebody who owns property in Florida being concerned. Uh, so let us know if you ever get licensed in Florida. We might have some great deals for you. But you know what, this whole show, Robert, is about education. And, people really, it's amazing, do not understand what you do. Um, and I just had someone who wrote in wanting to know what replacement cost is.
replacement cost is a type of coverage that most homeowners have, and even commercial property owners have replacement costs. I guess the important distinction to make is uh, when you have a building that is 50 to 100 years old, or even less, over time, there are things that uh, occur to that building naturally. The paint fades, floors get beat up, and the condition of that building certainly is not the same as it was immediately after it was finished construction. So replacement cost is what most people have today to insure their homes. And in the strictest definition of replacement cost, what you are insuring is the cost to replace in today's market, to put back new that which was damaged or destroyed. So if you had a kitchen fire and you were going to replace that floor, it would be the cost of the material today, the cost to install it, and making sure that it's uniform, has a nice appearance, and it's finished. The distinction one needs to understand is until you actually replace that damaged floor, the insurance company is going to pay you something less than the replacement cost by assigning percentages of depreciation. So a floor that might enjoy if it's a hardwood floor, I mean, typically hardwood floors could last 50 years, but in the course of 10, 20, 30 years, they get beat up. And, typically you would refinish it, but if it was burned, you'd have to replace it. The cost to replace that floor in today's market is the full replacement. If the insurance company was going to assign depreciation, they might depreciate it by a percentage to arrive at what's called actual cash value. But that depreciation is negotiable. And most of the time, the depreciation in a claim is minimal. So you might not see anything more than maybe 5 to 10% depreciation against that hardwood floor, but it's taken into account based on the age of the house generally. And when they withhold a portion for depreciation, it's really only for material. It's not for labor. So that's why I say you really wouldn't expect to see a high percentage. When somebody comes to me looking for help, and the first thing I see is, wow, they have the repair costs at $100,000, and the depreciation, withholding anywhere from 40 to 50. I think that something's wrong, because it's either determined arbitrarily, incorrectly, or the policy doesn't allow for full replacement. It only insures at actual cash value, in which case that depreciation would apply. So you really have to look at the coverage.
Value? Robert, what is cash value? Actual cash value?
It is
under a property insurance policy?
For dwelling, it would be some withheld amount for depreciation based on age and condition. As in the example of a hardwood floor, if it really has enjoyed most of its useful life, you might see depreciation of as much as 30%, but even that would be unusual, because then the insurance companies don't have a right to cherry pick the depreciation on one item and then pay full replacement on another. So you don't really see high percentages of depreciation unless it's a very, very old building.
I got it. So the difference in the two is what?
The difference in the two is what the insurance company gets to withhold until you actually make repairs.
Gotcha.
So if the hardwood floor was $15,000 to replace, and they wanted to depreciate it by 50%, they would say, we're going to give you $7,500 for that hardwood floor, and we're going to pay the difference when you make repairs. In which case you would show a contract with your builder and make claim for that depreciation once the work is underway. I don't know that hardwood floors is a great example, but depreciation is typically a percentage of the settlement amount that the insurance company gets to withhold until the repairs are close to completion.
Robert, you see all kinds of policies, and I'm sure it amazes you that there's people who don't read their entire policy and don't even know what's in there. But how does a person know if they have enough coverage?
Well, they rely on the agent to determine that. And I'm always flattered when somebody calls me and asks that question, because most people don't.
Yeah.
And while the agents try to keep up with the ever-growing cost of construction, particularly here in California, I wouldn't say they generally do an admirable job. Then you've got this sort of national issue of all of these disasters taken in the aggregate has been a kind of a wake-up call for the insurance industry. And it's also a call for legislative reform, because you buy this policy hoping that, God forbid you ever have a loss, the insurance company is going to pay you what you're going to need to fix that house. An insurance company that deliberately underinsures a property is also creating a huge liability for a homeowner. God forbid they have one, and they find out, lo and behold, they don't have enough. So people should generally, at least yearly, talk to their agent about how they're insured. We offer a consulting service to many of our clients. We can do a cursory review of their policy. We do that, as a matter of course, after we're hired, after someone has a loss, but we also do it for folks before they have damages. And while the need has never been monumental, if it was, we might have to charge for our time, but we do it in point of fact to advise people to go back to their agent to make sure that they don't find themselves in a very uncompromising situation where they're wondering what they're going to do. For the folks that have lost their homes in Pacific Palisades in Southern California, there's an assumption for many of them, for me anyway, not necessarily for others, that they don't have enough insurance to begin with. But I have met with and spoken with folks that do have adequate coverage, and those are the people that would truly benefit by having an advocate on their behalf, because insurance companies are not in the business of writing checks for a consumer's policy limit.
Yes. What's happening? We keep hearing that a lot of insurance companies pulled out of California. What happens if you are underwritten by one of these companies that pulled out? Do they still have an obligation if under your homeowner's policy? So,
Yes.
for example,
Yes.
Palisades area.
Yeah, the claim remains open for a company that says we're not renewing. And in a FEMA declared event, and I know this is the case in California. California is actually a pretty user-friendly state for people that have insurance claims. In a FEMA declared event, those policies extend coverage for one's loss of use from 12 or 24 months to 36, because that's essentially what it's going to take to get a house rebuilt.
Yes.
A lot of those folks, most of the cleanup is done in Southern California, and folks are hurrying to get their plans. For the ones that are planning on rebuilding, they're hurrying to get their plans approved so they can start reconstruction repair. Some people have enough insurance to rebuild their homes, many people don't, and they will be borrowing from either other buckets of coverage that the insurance company may be obligated to pay to put that towards the building coverage if they can, or they'll be borrowing some money. So,
have you gone in there yet, or is it still too early for you to come in?
Our public, many of the property owners in Southern California are represented by public adjusters. So, yeah, they're already. I don't know if anyone has broken ground yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they have, but I'm not down there, every day to see. I'm dialed into the same network that the survivors are, looking at what's happening on the ground, and making sure that I'm up to speed on any changes in what's happening locally as it would affect my client or a future client. Most of the calls we're getting are from folks that have gotten a preliminary number from the insurance company, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to get the rest of it. So
we just
it's a long and tedious process.
We just got a text in, someone wanting to know, if I have a loan against my home and property, don't they have some responsibility for making sure I have enough coverage? I guess
Yes.
the
Yes,
loan originator.
Yes, correct. The title company, in terms of escrow closing when you buy a house, yes, the bank that you borrowed money from wants to make sure there's a policy of insurance. Some banks take great care to make sure consumers have the right kind of coverage, and then sometimes they don't. They rely solely on the insurance agent. But underwriting is pretty sophisticated in terms of risk, and banks are not going to be left high and dry because a homeowner didn't insure a property correctly. Also, for folks that might find that the coverage they have would be insufficient, lenders frequently will put what's called a forced place policy on a house, but that doesn't happen unless there is some awareness by the bank that a homeowner is not insuring to value. And they normally will let the homeowner know about it, and they're going to charge the homeowner for that coverage if they're tasked with putting another policy on it because they didn't have enough insurance to begin with.
Robert, we're going to go to a quick break. Tell people how they can reach you.
Again, my name is Robert Crown. The company's Crown Adjusting. You can email me at robert@crownadjusting.com. My cell phone number is 415-999-5519. My colleague and protege, Joseph Fernandez, is joseph@crownadjusting.com, and his cell phone number is 925-361-2994.
We're going to go to a quick break, folks. I'm telling you, if you've got a claim in, I am telling you, don't try to handle it yourself. These people are really good at what they do, and having a public adjuster like Robert Crown Adjusting I'm telling you, it is the way to go. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back with Robert Crown.
Thank you, Steve.
K. Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
We are back. This is the Ask the Expert show. I'm your host, Steve-O. This is, I've got to tell you, especially in the California area, this is such an important show. We're doing our public insurance adjusters show today, and we are talking to I think one of the best in the business when it comes to public adjusting. We have Robert Crown of Crown Adjusting. Robert, we just got someone wanted to know that they want to make sure that they're safe. And they worry, especially after what just happened with seeing these houses burned down to the ground. How much insurance per foot would you say is adequate?
Well, I think it's different for different folks in different parts of the country. I think for many of the people in California, depending on the area, I would say minimum of $500 a foot. It doesn't mean that in every case, the insurance company is going to pay you that. But for us, for folks in this part of California, $500 to $600 a foot is the number that most people are being told by local builders. And for many in really high value properties, these are custom homes that were built, a number of years ago with the focus on quality of materials, expensive materials. It wouldn't be shocking to find that the real cost to rebuild a home is considerably more than $500 to $600 a foot. So you still have to prove it, but most high-end custom home builders, if you ask them to quote you a fee, they're going to tell you anywhere from $600 to $1,000 a foot.
And we hear about earthquake. I'm sure there's earthquake coverage in California, but the show is also airing in many other states. And that there are, you hear about, I know in Idaho, I've heard in Colorado, earthquakes. Do insurance companies offer earthquake coverage in many of the states that you cover?
There are insurers that offer earthquake coverage in California. The one that is currently offering coverage is through the California Fair Plan, which is a consortium of insurance companies that contribute to a fund. It's not cheap, and it doesn't cover everything. It comes with a 15% deductible. And so a deductible could be as much as $150,000 should you suffer an earthquake loss. Is it wise to carry that kind of coverage if you can afford it? Absolutely. It's not required. It's not required by the bank, at least not most of the homeowners that have coverage who have outstanding loans. The banks are not requiring people to pay for earthquake insurance because it would be a very expensive proposition. And I get asked frequently, should I carry it? I carried it for a long, long time. But it's very expensive, and you'd be surprised how certain structures behave better than others. I think I think most of us in California don't want to think about that because it may be just a matter of time, and it's costly enough to have insurance in California, and many people are worried. They're worried about what's going to happen to the market. If you can't buy insurance, it doesn't even pay to buy a house, because you can't buy a house if you can't afford to pay insurance on it. So that's changing, and we are as a group of advocates looking to help consumers. We want our voice to count too, because no one should have to pay, $10,000 to $15,000 a year for insurance when they can barely afford the mortgage.
Right. I want people also know we're talking about homeowners, but you also cover business
We do.
policy as well. And I got to tell you, I've seen many businesses, especially, it was a leak, but it wasn't their leak. It was next door neighbor's leak that flowed in. So those kind of things happen, don't they?
All the time. Yeah, we're handling commercial business. We look to the policy first to see how we can help a client. But even a client that has a business that suffers a fire or a water loss has got to do the same things that a homeowner does. They've got to protect their property from further damage. They have to think about how they're going to get back into business elsewhere, or how the insurance company should be offering assistance to help them get back into business elsewhere. And as public adjusters, we take charge and pilot that effort, making sure that the insurance company helps them to the extent that they can, because doing nothing doesn't solve anything. Doing nothing just means that the loss is going to be far greater. Right now, we're helping a business owner relocate her sewing factory, and getting into an affordable temporary commercial space is challenging enough. Unfortunately, this particular client won't be going back to the building she was renting in, because that building is coming down. It's a complete total loss. The property's still in there. We did the inventory. She's coming in and trying to save what property she can, but ultimately that building is going to be leveled, and the property owner will either think about developing the property or selling it, or trying to find the money to put something else there, because right now it's not worth very much.
Marvin in San Diego. Thanks a lot for offering a show like this. It's about time someone did. Well, we've been doing this show now for 4 or 5 months now, and it'll be on every month. Um, but his question is, I'm getting ready to open a business as a new business owner with ownership of the building. What should I make sure areas that I'm covered on?
If you are an owner of the building as well as the business,
That's what it sounds like.
that's a very timely and excellent question. You as a landlord own the building, and to the extent that the business is simply renting space to you as a tenant, you would want to make sure that you as a tenant have ample coverage for your own business personal property in that unit or in that building. Because you are a landlord and I mean, I'm not sure if you're talking about separate policies, assuming you are, under the landlord coverage, you'd have building coverage and loss of rents. As a business owner operating, whether it's a retail store or a manufacturing operation, you would have business interruption, loss of income, and extra expense as a tenant occupant in your own building. I would say it would be important to list those entities separately so that if you did suffer a loss, you as a landlord would have the right to collect the rent that you would also be paying to yourself, but it wouldn't be the case that one cancels out the other, which is why many people should have themselves as an additional named insured under the policy. So you have your landlord policy, and then you have your business policy with you as an individual named under the business as an additional named insured, so that you can protect yourself, particularly if the building is insured with one insurance company and the business is insured with another. So, but those are things that you would discuss with a commercial insurance agent to make sure you protect yourself.
Mark, this is in Malibu. He said, I've heard of public adjusters in the past. I'm glad there's a show that really explains it like you were explaining it. How do your fees work?
Let me say, I appreciate that as a compliment. Understanding insurance is very complex and it's very confusing. So it's not the case that in every explanation people understand, what I'm saying, because for them, it might seem like the haze of understanding insurance is always a challenge. But that's what public adjusters are there to do, and that's what agents are there to do. What was the question again, Stephen?
They want to know, how do your fees work?
Okay. Typically, public adjusters work on a commission or a contingency fee. The standard fee is typically 10%, but it varies depending on the size of the loss. It also varies depending on when we get involved. If an owner is struggling to get a resolution of their claim and they've only gotten a fraction of what they're entitled to, sometimes we'll work on new money and the percentage might be higher. But we have to look at that very carefully because I've said no to people, not because I don't want to help them, but because I might be costing them too much money. So that's really part of the problem that a PA might have when they're looking at the the issue of ethics and are they really going to have a happy customer at the end of the day. So I have said no to people, not because I don't want to help them, but because they would be a difficult client to not to represent, but to help them get to the finish line because their claim is already so problematic. I say no to people quite frequently that have water claims, and the amount of time that you would spend on a smaller claim is, frank, the compensation is so fractional by comparison, it doesn't make any sense. Now, there are companies that are well staffed to handle smaller claims, but again, I would just as soon advise someone and not represent them than take a big piece of what they're going to need to fix their house. So that's part of the dilemma. And some insurance companies are, very difficult right out of the gate. So I'm not poised to be all things to all people. I'll just say that. But people that
Robert,
find
that's what I loved about how you do business. Because when we first started talking, you actually told me, you said there's a lot of people that um, I cannot help, and we tell that. Whereas I could see another company just for the money and getting someone's hopes up that they're going to get a lot more money, and in the end, they don't get them anymore. And I got to tell you, I really appreciate your honesty and how you handle your customers.
Well, I will say in defense to a lot of the folks that are in our business, there are a great many more that practice with the same integrity that I have and I possess. And while I'm always a little suspicious of the the reasons why people come into this business, which is by definition a hard business to be in, many of them have the same work ethic I do. They're not just looking at it from the point of view of money, although money is the great motivator for folks in our business. It's really, you have to look at the total package. You have to look at where people are at. You have to be aware of the relationships you're going to establish with others. And even homeowners can get a little romanticized by having been paid X amount of dollars by the insurance company to see if they can save money or get additional work done for the settlement. There's nothing the matter with asking those questions, but the idea of being dishonest or being a little too eager can also be a red flag for some of the people that you're going to be dealing with. Some people will say, well, if they're going to pay X amount of dollars to pack out my house, why don't they just pay me and I'll do it for less? That's a very, there's nothing the matter with that question. Chances are you could do it for less, but the insurance companies don't even want to see people get their hands on that money. So if they can save it, they're going to. And so you've got to be very careful of how you communicate with your insurance company. And I'm always, we're serving as a buffer, a go-between to make sure people don't make mistakes. And also,
Robert, did they sign some kind of power of attorney with you that you can handle their claim and the insurance company?
They sign a public adjuster agreement, which gives us the right to serve as their advocate in all insurance-related matters. I think there are public adjusters that do have their clients sign a power of attorney, and we're looking pretty carefully at that too, because at the end of the day, we could, I know this from experience, having done this as long as I have, I could be on a claim for a year, 2 years, maybe more, and it could be a problematic claim. The last thing I want to be doing is worrying about getting paid by a client that had to wait a long time because the money had to flow through their lender. So that is an issue for many public adjusters, and they all have a different way of dealing with it. What I've done in the past is I will just work with my client. When the money is issued by the lender, I'll take my percentage fee from the lender disbursement. But some people don't want to wait that long, and that's why they prefer to have a power of attorney so they can take their fee or a good portion of it after they've done all of the work that would entitle the client to more money. So,
Here's a text from Orange County. I know that every claim is different. What is the average amount of time a claim gets settled?
wow. Well, it's a lot longer than it was 4 years ago. And
Why
that's
is that?
because insurance companies have elected to limit the payouts and take longer with processing claims. It's not to say in every case it's going to take that long, but it depends on the size of the loss. If it's we're, we wanted to use one of the shows we hosted a couple of weeks ago to walk people through the evolution of a water damage claim that we're still dealing with. And this is with an insurance company that's just misbehaving. We should have had this claim resolved a month ago. And now we're tasked with holding the insurance company accountable for the delays, which we've documented really, really well. I would say you can expect a claim to take nothing less than 6 months, and depending on how extensive the damage is, a year. I frequently will advise a client, having gone to visit the work site, the insurance company sends out their ambassador and says, well, no problem, we'll get you back into your house in a couple of months. I offer an opinion early on that may fly in the face of that by saying, no, you're more realistically 6 months to a year, so that they can talk to the insurance company, or I can talk to the insurance company if I'm hired, about the more realistic time frame for actually getting the claim settled and then getting a permit issued so people can start repairs. Even if you, I want to be the first to get my client, to help my client get the permit. But what if the insurance company is taking their time about paying what's fair? So frequently the permit's not even available. Most of the time I'm telling the insurance company, how do you expect my client to start repairs with half the money they're going to need to effectively repair their home? And that is something that gets documented over the course of our involvement. For any kind of catastrophic loss, we might be working for our client for two years or more. So, it's not the case that the fee is always proportionate to the amount of work, but most people who don't really understand what we do would say, wow, 10% of, several $100,000, that's a lot of money. I would tell them, yeah, that's because we earn it. And because without us, they could cost themselves a lot more, leaving how much money on the table. And notwithstanding even the dollars themselves, most people have no idea how much time it's going to take. How much would you pay yourself to fight with your insurance company for a year or two before you got the claim resolved?
You hear stories all the time, people fighting with their insurance company and spending hours and hours and hours. And look, you do so much work before you realize your first dime. And it's really based on performance. And so you've got a lot of skin in the game. I know there's people right now going, I like this Robert Crown, but I already settled my claim. Can you do anything for those people, Robert?
Well, if they settled their claim and they're back in their house, I would say they clearly moved on with it and did the best they could. For a claim that's languishing, it's maybe a year old, I talk to people that want to file claims late in the game. And if I can help them, I consider it. I think a claim that is relatively new, you can do a lot more for a client if the claim is relatively new, or you can do a lot for a client when the insurance company is so misbehaved that you can get a new adjuster assigned to a claim that's 4 or 5 months old, and maybe have a little bit of luck in making sure that it's assigned to someone that the public adjuster knows. And many insurance companies would prefer to work with somebody like me that has been doing this for a long time, that knows what they're doing, because the claim, it languishes and nothing gets done, and the insurance company remains in the crosshairs, like it or not, for what they did correctly and what they did incorrectly. So, but it's always, I mean, most PAs will tell you, without hurrying somebody into signing an agreement without them knowing what they're signing, I think a savvy public adjuster will be able to communicate the responsibilities that they would assume as the policyholder's advocate, for them to make a more informed decision about getting help sooner rather than later, and not because somebody's trying to scare them into them signing a contract, but because they've communicated effectively and they've walked that person through the process to garner at least some appreciation for their knowledge and skill set. When people ask me, how do I know you're going to earn your fee? I mean, the easy, sort of funny answer is, you don't. But but how do you know you're going to, your lack of knowledge, expertise, and time is going to effectively get you where you want to go when you're out of your house for the next 6 months to a year. I mean, there's a lot of things that would be talked about in the course of starting a relationship with somebody. I just want to talk to them and explain to them what they have on their plate and what they have to do on their own behalf. I'm not, my approach is a little different than most public adjusters. And I know, because I was trained by, a large company. The guys on the street, some of them are very savvy and they know what they're doing, but they may not be the person that's going to handle the claim.
I got to tell you, we're so lucky to have Crown Adjusting. I think people can see by these shows we're doing, your honesty, your knowledge is so important. The good thing is, Robert's going to be back again with us next month. If you've missed part of the show, you can go to iHeart or Spotify under Ask the Experts. We have it under California Public Adjuster. Tell people again how they can reach you, Robert.
As with the scroll bar, the numbers are listed below. You can find me on the web at crownadjusting.com. And, you can Google reviews. You can find out more about us through navigating the website, or just, calling us or emailing us. We are listed through the National Association of Public Adjusters, as are all public adjusters that do business in the United States. It's a good trade association. And I, having spent 4 days in Scottsdale with some of the best and brightest, I'm in good company and aspire to be every bit as knowledgeable as others who have been doing this for just as long or longer than me. The learning curve is endless, and we need good people in our profession. So if people ask me frequently, I tell them, if you're not going to hire me, hire somebody, because I know the folks that need help, and everybody should have the right to get the kind of help they need, so long as they're not being hustled into doing something before they're ready to.
Robert, you're the best. I mean, I'm thinking about Joseph also. Please say hi to Joseph.
I will. I speak for Joseph. He's doing well. He actually is at a meeting today, so he couldn't make it, but he conveys his best wishes and will attend next time.
We'll see you guys next month. Thanks a lot again. This is Crown Adjusting, and please give them a call if you're going through, you've had to file a claim with your homeowners. They're the best. That's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts. Thank you, Juan.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.